So we're gathered here for part 2 of our open house series, celebrating the temple doors of the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program being open. We have one more week for applications and registrations. And so this is truly, just celebrating. We get to talk about flower essences. Yesterday we spoke all about flower essences for me. So flower essences for our own personal quest, our own personal undertaking that we go, down into the shadows, coming up to the light, going down into the shadows, coming up into the light, this journey of life. Moving through our emotions and our pains and our wounds, and also, deeply connecting to Gaia and to the plants and the earth. So yesterday was all about all of the ways that flower essences can support our own internal and personal health journey and, our emotional freedom. And so today we go into part 2, which is once we focus on me, we kind of get ourselves together as best as we can, knowing that we're on a continual journey. We get to bring ourselves out into the we. We get to be sacred activists. We get to show up in really deep and transformational ways to serve the world. And that means something different to each woman here. So we're going to talk today, we're going to do a grounding to really bring all of our energies together. And we are going to talk about flower essences as part of our sacred activism. We're going to talk about right livelihood. We're going to talk about sacred commerce. We're going to talk about how do you be, a medicine woman, a healer, a keeper of earth wisdom, and make a big impact, and have a thriving business that's sustainable, and, just be able to live your dreams. Living our dreams doesn't have as great of an effect and impact on us if we can't share it with the world, if we can't help those who don't have the same access to living their dreams, or we don't help those who don't have a voice or are being assaulted, or so many issues around the world where justice is being ignored and exiled. We need to be part of not just the conversation, but the solution. So it's such a deep and vast conversation, just like yesterday's, but it's really a great invitation for us as flower essence practitioners to really, truly understand that you have a great role as a global citizen. So it's very exciting and very needed. So we're going to start with a grounding and then, journey into this, going through the different aspects that I want to share about. And then we'll talk about the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program and the ins and outs of it. So some of you, I recognize your names. Some of you were here yesterday on the call. Some of you, I'm just looking at the names. There's a couple here that I think weren't on the call yesterday. So we'll go through the practitioner training program and any questions. And then I want to lead you through this really beautiful meditation to connect deeply with Gaia and to have her support you to be an earth-based leader. Because that's what we need. There's a lot of conversation about all of us being leaders from the sacred feminine, which is, an absolute for sure. And all of us need to be deeply rooted, anchored in the honor, the respect, the partnership that we have with the earth-based leaders. Okay, so let's just close our eyes. So if you can, sometimes women are listening to this at work or when they're driving. So, obviously when you can close your eyes. And taking some nice deep breaths. Letting your breath really open the gateways and the channels for you to receive information in a new way, for you to hear something new or different, for something to land in you. And so your breath holds this incredible capacity to center you, to ground you, and to connect you to the earth and to the heavens. So as you begin to sit here feeling the women who are here live on the call with us and the women who will be listening to the recording, and just really feeling the strength of this sisterhood, feeling the deep devotion that each woman here has to her own inner healing journey and to being a sacred vessel of love and activism, and to really having a deep longing and desire to claim herself as a daughter of the earth, to deepen into earth's wisdom, magic, gifts, and medicine. And so we feel all of the women in all different parts of the world coming together, unifying their frequencies to become one for this moment. Placing your hands over your womb space. This chalice of the sacred feminine that holds so much of the mystery that we're aware of, that we're not aware of, that holds the resonance of ignition and creation, of shedding, of releasing, of exaltation and fullness. And we welcome this sacred cauldron of the feminine to arrive more potently for each of us in this moment, in this shared space, bringing forth activations and insights that we have been so calling forth. And bringing your hands from your womb space up to your heart space. This chalice of unconditional love. This place that you hold inside of you that is capable of giving an infinite amount of love. This place inside of you that is capable of receiving the full generosity of love that's available. That sings and dances and weaves and throbs and pulses with aches and longings and bliss and joy. And we welcome in this cauldron, sacred, sacred cauldron of your unconditional love. Knowing that there is so much more of who we are and what we have to give and to offer and to receive. And moving your hands from your heart space to your third eye, we call forth this cauldron of sacred wisdom. This place where you receive transmissions and insights and visions from the great mystery, the source of all, where the God and Goddess, where the great Mother and the great Father can land into your body. And from this place, you get to live great visions and great dreams. And so we presence here the deep welcoming and opening to receive while staying embodied. Welcome, cauldron of sacred wisdom. And bringing your hands back to your side and just feeling these points of activation inside of you. These points of vast, vast mysteries. Deep presence. We call forth any guides who wish to be here with us at this time as we journey into this deep conversation of living every part of our life in resonance with our soul. To uplift the world, our communities, our beloveds, our children, and all our relations in the web of life. May all that's spoken and shared be in the highest good for all beings in this world and all other worlds. And so mote it be. Blessed be. Taking one or two more breaths, and then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Come back into this space. So we can't see many of you, but we know you're here, and if it's possible for us to see you visually. Oh, nice, thank you. So, hello. So this is, this is a really big, did you feel that in yourself as we went through these sacred portals in your own body? Did you feel yourself expanding, stretching, remembering? Anyone feel any of that? You can raise your hand or nod, those of you who I can see. There's an immense power that lies in every one of us. And it is absolutely part of our responsibility to share and bring forth this power into the world. And again, this looks all different ways. And what I want to talk about today is this through the lens, through the incredible path of being a flower essence practitioner. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Ameya, and I'm blessed to do this work. I'm blessed to be here with all of you. I'm blessed to get to talk about flower essences and sacred plant medicine and emotional healing. And we have a school called the Woman Rising School for Sacred Feminine Mysteries that's really deeply anchored in ancient earth and moon and sun mysteries. So the lunar and the solar and the earth runs through pretty much everything that I talk about in my, that I do in my own life and that I bring forward to our community. So the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program is, this will be our 5th year, and registration's open for another week. And registration is by application, so you have to fill out an application. We get on the phone and we talk. Okay, so I'm going to be talking more about it, but I just want to bring up my notes so I remember everything that I want to talk to you about, because all of these things are so important of how we impact the world. There is, although I don't want to look at my notes because I want to look at all of you. There is a huge movement happening on the world. Well, many movements, right? So those of us in more of the path of conscious community and healing, we're seeing a major waking up, major, all around the world. So much is happening in the US, in Syria, all over the world. There's a pulse and ignition for all of us to wake up and to be part of the solution. We hear about the problem all the time. So how do we become part of the solution and create new means and new grids of consciousness? And then there's this whole other movement happening as well, simultaneously, of women like you who are called to serve others in really deep and transformational ways. I mean, I watch on my, on Facebook, and even just talking to friends, the amount of people who are coaching and mentoring and counseling other people. And it's because all of us were called to this path through our own healing. And then we say, oh my gosh, I want to be able to serve others. I want to be able to give back the gift so people find their true essence. And so for me, this has been through the lens of flower essences. And flower essences give this just extraordinary fast track to coming back into your embodied self. So with this movement of so many people being coaches and mentors and counselors, and it's bringing us into this understanding and this desire that we also all want to live in right livelihood, right? There's this resistance, or this just, absolute truth that you don't want to work in a job that doesn't serve your soul and doesn't serve others, right? So I see Kinga shaking her head. Yeah. So that's why we're here, right? None of you would be here if you weren't looking for more ways to live in right livelihood. Some of you work in the corporate world. Some of you are healers, and we're all wanting to take this deeper. So right livelihood, it's an expression that I absolutely love. And livelihood is a Buddhist teaching. It's part of the Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. And really the Buddha was speaking of right livelihood, meaning ethical livelihood. So any livelihood that does no harm to others. If we think about this, like if you really truly think about doing no harm, and you go through different, careers and professions, there's a small amount of careers and professions that actually do no harm. And when I say do no harm, I'm not just talking about, doing no harm to humans. I'm talking about doing no harm to the earth. I mean, that's huge. How many businesses and companies actually do harm the earth? So there's like a select small grouping of companies and small companies and individuals who really are living in right livelihood, who are absolutely honoring and respecting all beings. So this piece that's really important that I want to presence, and we're going to go back a little bit to something we did yesterday on our call, is, the Buddha, and, Buddhism is one of the oldest spiritual paths and wisdom traditions. And the Buddha saw prosperity and financial security as good and appropriate and necessary for lay people. So, we're not talking about renunciates or monks or those living a monastic life. It's really for people like you and I. So rightful meaning any occupation that does not cause unnecessary harm to living things, and one in which brings forth a receiving of commerce And so we're going to talk about sacred commerce in a little bit, but there was always some exchange. It wasn't necessarily money, but there was some exchange. And to me, when I think about right livelihood in this conversation, it's like, who else would you want to give money to than to those people who are being, who are living an ethical and moral life? And I say that because for all of us, we go through different aspects of our own worthiness and our beliefs about money. And for many of us, there's like a cultural conditioned aspect that those who are healers and those who are spiritual beings and those who have morals don't make money, right? Like you've all heard like the starving artist, or I've talked to so many women, over the last 5 years, even just enrolling for this program, let alone, all my other students and clients. And there's this concept of like, well, if I'm really doing sacred work in the world, that means maybe I shouldn't be receiving money, right? Or maybe I should be receiving less. It's this whole kind of grid around money that we're living in that absolutely needs to be shifted. And one of the things that, if you read my newsletter about what this call was about, is like, actually, we really want financial resources to be in the hands of all the change makers. We want financial resources to be in the hands of those who are living and practicing right livelihood, who care about the earth, who care about other beings, who care about being in service to the planet. Everything that I do affects each of you. Everything that you do affects all of us, me, all of you. And when we remember that we are global citizens, we live in right livelihood, it's like becomes this natural flow that, of course, it's the finances and those kinds of resources are meant to be in your hands. Because imagine a world where we're the ones in power, because that's how the world is still set up, right? Of like those who have the financial means have a different kind of power. So it doesn't mean that everyone, other people don't, but there's a different level of power. And it's not that one is better than another, but what it seems like is that still in the patriarchal structures, those that have more money get to make bigger decisions. And those bigger decisions, most of the time, radically and negatively impact the waters, the air, the food we eat, education, women's bodies. We could go on and on and on. So all of you here, and I know this is a small group, and there's that great quote by Margaret Mead, never, I forget what the exact quote is, but like never underestimate that a small group can change the world. Everything you do. And I know that can feel daunting, or like, sometimes we go into this place of like, really, am I doing anything? Like, look at what's happening. And you are. Everything that you're doing is absolutely shifting the matrix of our consciousness. So it's really exciting, it's like, it's so exciting if we just claim this for ourselves and actually live and be the change that we want to see, right? I know when I first got to Los Angeles, I moved there about 10 years ago. I had this whole like judgmental thing come up because I had come from living in Hawaii, and before that I'd been living in Vermont, and both Vermont and Hawaii being very, people living very close to the earth and really loving the earth, and I had been in all these like very earth-loving communities. And I got to LA, and I remember going to the health food store, and everyone had their cloth grocery bag, and there was like this real beauty to it of the consciousness. But there was also this like deep trend to it of just like, oh, I'm hip and I'm cool because I'm bringing my cloth bag to the store. And I remember having all these judgments of like, do these people even know where their food is coming from? Do they even like, how do they vote? And how do they do all these things? And how, I was just like really, in this very active, radical time of my life. And I remember like kind of talking myself through of like, oh, this is the first step. Okay, so this is the first step. We each have first steps. And then from that place, every first step creates a deepening of partnership. And when we're in partnership, and I'm talking specifically with Mother Earth, but truly any partnership we have, the more we invest time in and the more we see our actions and the consequences of our actions, the more deeply we step into honoring, respecting, and being a great guardian. So that story is just a presence, like every single thing that you do impacts us. And so, of course, even stepping onto the path as a flower essence practitioner changes the matrix that we've been functioning in as a whole planet for thousands of years. So yesterday we spoke about these rings. So some of you were here and some of you weren't. So I'm gonna draw them, and I'm gonna have you draw them after me. So what I want you to do is take out a piece of paper and you draw the center circle and then 3 outer circles around it. And again, I spoke about this yesterday. You can have like 8 or 10 circles, but we're gonna just start with 3 for right now. So this center part is you. And this is you as the center, and then these are your inner rings, and then slowly these rings go outer, and they make a transition to your outer rings. And your inner and outer rings are intimately connected to one another. And so your inner rings are, things in your life that really feed you, that you feed, that you prioritize, that are important for you to stay in your center or to find your center. And so yesterday we did a practice where you really felt into like your inner rings, like what you need to be you, to be happy, to be joyful, to be healthy, all these things. And then there comes a place where your inner rings journey into your outer rings. And this becomes your wheelhouse, your map for how you want to live your days, your weeks, your months. And so we're talking today about kind of these outer spokes of the wheel, these outer rings, that once we move past, okay, time with our family, time with our beloveds, time in nature, time with our partner, sex, all of these things, how does that translate into our outer rings? How does that translate into how we then express ourselves into the world? So this call is really about like your self-expression. So I want you to, on a piece of paper, I'd like for you specifically around this concept of, right livelihood, being a global citizen, doing work that makes impact. I want you to just take a couple minutes to write down like your big dream with all of this. Like what fills you up? What excites you as far as doing your sacred work in the world? I just want you to, you probably, some of you already know this and you've done work like this, but just in this space of all of us doing this shared expression of what do you want? Like, what do you want for your work, for your leadership, for how you're going to receive income? And really vision that for yourself. Okay. Is there anyone here who wants to share what their self-expression and their ideal vision for their work and their impact looks like? So if you can't unmute yourself or can't talk, you can type in on the chat box. We probably all have something very similar. There might be, some different flavors or currents that are alive, but I'd love for all of us to bear witness to what it is that you really want, how you get fed, and then also how you serve others. Come on, babies. Come on, we need you claiming this.
I could speak.
Great.
I'm mentoring some young women right now to become more empowered and embodied and really step into leadership in their own lives and with their friends, really changing their relationships with girlfriends, and hosting their own red tents. What I got when you asked that question is I really want to step more into gatherings and ceremonies and even hosting possible several day retreats, and kind of rites of passage type ceremonies. That's what I'd like to do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sylvie. Really beautiful. So Rose Hart wrote in the chat box, returning to our deepest embodied feminine wisdom, wholeness, and remembering together. Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Anyone else have anything to share? I mean, I know you all have something to share. It's just, anyone wanting to share. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have anything to share. Okay, so we'll just, Miranda, loving, sustainable, creative community where we honor, share, and learn from each other's gifts. Beautiful. Thank you. So, as women, what most of us really love is to be in space with either a group of people or one-on-one and go deep, right? Women, we relate to each other through our wounds. Did you ever notice that? So when we are talking to somebody or when we sit in circle with other women and women share what's present and we think to ourselves like, oh my gosh, I've been through that, or oh my gosh, that woman feels the same way I do, there's an automatic connection that happens. We feel part of, we feel belonging, we feel that this is exactly where we're meant to be. And from that place, so much healing happens because we hold such a deep imprint of not belonging and not being included and not being understood. And so each of us is calling forth deeper experiences where in our own self, but also to invite others into that deep place because that's where the truth of who we are is revealed. It's like, that's what we all really want to be doing, is like doing this like extraordinary life-changing work and holding space for other people. And so then the question always comes all the time. Okay, well, how do we create income? How do we take this deep longing? And so one of the things that I teach in the Flower Essence Practitioner Program is everything that you do has to be in resonance with your heart. Everything. So we're talking specifically about right livelihood and sacred commerce, so we can kind of just shift our attention and energy to business. Every choice and every decision that you make has to be in full resonance. So if there's any time in your business that you're like, oh, I should do this, or I should do this, or somebody told me to do this and it's like not totally my thing, but I'll just do it, it's not going to work. And that's not how you create commerce. And that's not how you create a sacredness of that commerce. So sacred commerce is very, very similar to the right livelihood aspect of like when you live in resonance and when you live in right livelihood, when you have this deep desire to be a sacred activist and to serve others, you will absolutely bring in money. Sacred commerce is the practice of creating money and have it be a sacrament. Have the exchange of the goods and service be part of this holy, holy opportunity. We talked a little bit about this on the call yesterday, but part of me doing these open house series is obviously to educate you and introduce you, and it's to invite you to enroll in this program, right? And so there could be this part of me that's like, oh, I'm like selling them something. But I have such a full resonance in myself that flower essences are life-changing. Flower essences are amazing, and they will absolutely be like the great gift in your medicine basket, that it really becomes more of an invitation. It really comes, hopefully, that you're receiving, from the deepest place of my heart. And so when each of you comes from that place in your work, and this can be, your work can look any different way. You could be, a coach. You can be a midwife, a doula, a red tent facilitator. You could be, you could work with young children. Anything that you do, an artist, has to come from this place of like the deepest resonance, and that everything that you're offering is for the service and in service to somebody else. And that makes such a shift in how we view commerce. Then there's this whole other piece, that kind of loops into the call from yesterday of each of you. I'm going to lean in a little bit more so that you really hear this. Each of you has to do your own inner work on receiving. The abundance on this planet is so vast. And it's really out of whack in how it's been kind of handed out and held. But the abundance is there. It's you believing that you're worthy enough to receive the abundance. And the abundance may be actually financial abundance. The abundance may be opportunities. The abundance may be, being invited to like this most epic conference that is totally up your alley and everything, and they've invited you for free or they've asked you to speak there. It's like there's so much abundance, but we all have this very thwarted and wounded part of us that goes like, well, I'm not good enough, or who am I to charge that, or, all these things that go on for us. So you actually all really know how to create sacred and holy spaces. And you actually all really know, like, I don't need to teach you that. You could probably be teaching me that, So all of you know how to create that, and all of you are deeply connected on your own spiritual paths and to Mother Earth. And so it becomes, okay, you now get to live as a sanctuary. You get to live as a temple keeper, as a wisdom keeper. And if we go back, thousands and thousands of years to the priestesses who lived in those temples, the abundance just rained on them. They never thought about money. It was given. It was because they honored and respected themselves so that other people honored and respected themselves. So there's these both parts when we talk about sacred commerce and we talk about money, because this is a huge, huge conversation for those of us on spiritual paths. Is yes, we want to figure out of like, how do we create a business that's in full right livelihood, that is in full resonance, because the universe will just meet you and support you. And how do you move through the human belief systems that have been created so that you get to receive? And part of that is, moving through the wounding that's sitting in your second chakra. In the Flower Essence program, we have a whole module about the second chakra, and all of that. Second chakra is all about your capacity to receive goodness, not just financially, but in all ways. You have to have the impulse and the muscle that allows you to receive and doesn't go into just like deflection, right? So, truthfully, as I was, preparing for this call, I was thinking, we're talking about right livelihood, and we're talking about you being a sacred activist, and we're talking about you serving, and we're talking about sacred commerce, and all of it's just about you saying, yeah, I want that, and I'm willing to create that. We become the biggest obstacles to having all of that and to creating all of that. So right livelihood, sacred commerce, it's like there's an ease there. It's more about you literally, like the universe saying, okay, here's all these things that you could have and you can create, because you hold the divine will through your own free will. We gave you, this unique frequency to live out your destiny here. And we're kind of just like, oh, I really, 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 really want to make this happen. And I feel really stuck. And it's like, you have to do the inner work. And, for me, it's flower essences. It's like they allow you to do all of that so that you reach out your hand back to spirit and you say like, yeah, I have to do this, not just for myself and my own sanity and my own enjoyment of life, but I have so much to give to other people, right? There's an expression I've heard, and I was kind of resistant to it for so long because it was part of the coaching world and like part of how you like sell to people and all of that. But there is a truth to it that when we hold ourselves back and we hold our gifts back, we really take from somebody having an amazing life-changing experience through you. And we all know, like, we have to be in our most active, empowered bodies right now, fighting for justice, fighting for equality, and working with others to lift themselves up so that the army gets bigger. The love army gets bigger. So, yeah, I feel really impassioned. There's a part of me that's like, I just want to be in a room with all of you and just like, yeah, let's do it. There's a part of me that's feeling a little inhibited, or not inhibited, feeling like challenged that we're on a computer, because I just want to be like, yes, yeah, let's do it. Let's, really step into these agents of change. When you look at your life, there are, of course, circumstances and experiences that you've had that have made things harder. And now, as a mature adult, you get to decide how those experiences and situations get to continue to affect your life. That's conscious living. conscious choice, free will. Before we go into our guided journey, for each of you to feel how deeply Gaia is wanting to support you in your leadership, I want to talk about the Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program. So, I want to be really concise, but it's so hard for me to do that. This program is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's a huge mix of very heady understanding of science, of trauma, of the nervous system, of patterning and wounding and hurt, of real psychology and depth psychology and shadow work, mixed with earth-based wisdom and the gifts of the flowers and the trees, and how there's a synergistic relationship, so that when you take and ingest the essence of a spirit, it meets you so deeply that you automatically begin to step into your own spirit and your own essence, mixed with shamanic practices to commune more deeply with the spirit of the earth and the trees and the plants, because again, the deeper you are connected to Gaia, the range of your love and service extends to include her and all beings. Mixed with, you get one-on-one sessions. So you get 3 one-on-one sessions throughout the program that are really for your journey. What you're present to, what you're challenged by, what beliefs, what wounds. And you're held so deeply in this, and you get a customized flower essence formula. And so, as you know, with anything that you do for work, specifically, especially when you're using it as a platform to serve others and give them an extraordinary and life-changing experience, if you walk the path, if you have your own experience of how the flower essences live inside of you, you become that much of a more powerful practitioner. I mean, I know for me, that's why I'm good at what I do, because I've done my work. I've, faced the mother wound and the father wound and the anger and and there's still, of course, things that arise because we're on this healing journey, and I just take my flower essences and, okay. And that's not to say that flower essences do that. Because actually what's more interesting is that you're an active participant. So you choose based on your soul's readiness what wants to be healed, repaired, and brought into wholeness. So then you get an apothecary of 70 essences. So you get this package and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And you don't have to buy anything after the program, you just begin. So there's this extraordinary sisterhood, and it's so, so, so amazing. So we offer this once a year. There's 28 spots, and it is by application. Usually when I read an application, I have a feeling in my body of oh yes, not only do I want this person in this program because of her own journey that she's going to undergo, but that she's bringing herself and her gifts into this sisterhood, and how everyone else is going to feed into that. So every year we hear the same thing. It's a life-changing program. And every woman who steps into the container says, I'm called. I'm called. So if you look on, I'm going to type in here, if you look on the web page, you can obviously read more about it. And that chat box doesn't show up in the recording. So the web page is www.Flower Essence Practitioner Program. Very easy. And you'll see all the details there. You'll see all the modules that we go through, and I really want you to read through them because it is such a comprehensive program. It's we do the esoteric, you attuning and communing with the earth and being in communication and deepening that partnership. And then there's this whole aspect of trauma work, and then there's this whole aspect of you being amazing counselor, mentor, you learning the art of holding space, you learning the art of asking questions so that you lead somebody in this experience where they find the gold and the gem of themselves. And that truly is an art. And then you get to, based on what they say, make them a powerful, powerful formula. So there's so much there. I would love to invite you to really read through the modules. And then, if you want, apply. So the tuition is $3,800 because it includes so much. And we have, pay in full, we have 4-month payments, and we have 8-month payments. And most women choose the 8-month payment plan. It just creates a bit more spaciousness for them financially. And then there's also an optional 3.5-day retreat. So if you get to Southern California, there's a way in which that retreat really brings an embodiment piece to understanding the modality. And that's another $1,000 that includes, this beautiful house that I rent up in the mountains, and organic meals and sisterhood and play and teachings and all of those things. You'll get to meet your mentors, your practitioners in real time, in real life. Usually about half of the women who enroll in the training come to the retreat. So the retreat, the program is totally complete without the retreat. I just want to presence that. And that's just an optional additional piece. So there's lots of options for you with the finances. And once you apply, we get on the phone, we answer your questions, and we enroll you. So it's a very seamless process. Many of you, even with feeling this great call, feel nervous. What am I doing? What am I doing? Is this like, am I going to get the same experience that everyone else gets? Am I crazy? Yes, you will. Every woman has an amazing experience. And, it's good to have a little nervousness. You're stepping into the unknown. And as the space holder of it, I really see this as a huge, huge, huge choice. You're claiming a bigger part of you. You're claiming deeper communion with Gaia. You're claiming yourself as a healer, as a facilitator of healing, and you're claiming to do your own healing work. Like it's big, and it's worth it. So sometimes women are just like, oh, I'm just so excited. And most women are like, I'm excited, but there's also a little something. So that's all good and real. And as I was saying yesterday, everything that you feel is valid. Everything that's alive for you is offering a glimpse into something that wants to be healed or celebrated or both. So I look forward to welcoming whoever is here or whoever's on the call that feels that they want to join us. Registration will open next spring, 2019. So for some women that feels really good, and other women are like, I don't want to wait, right? And that's part of this conversation of like, we put things off to the detriment of our own self all the time. I do it. I'm like, oh, I'll do that sometime. And when it's in great service to ourselves and the world, it has to be made a priority. And you have to make it a priority. So I know a lot of you were here yesterday, and some of you are new. So I want to just pause before we do our grounding and just see if there's any questions about anything that I spoke about. And then, of course, any questions about the practitioner training program. So if you can unmute yourself, there's a little microphone, on your bottom left hand side of your screen. And you can also type in the chat if that's easier for you. So we'll just wait a couple minutes and see if there's questions. A lot of times women are waiting for like this to feel like a really rational choice, but the truth is when your soul is calling you, the logical mind isn't going to grasp it. The imaginal mind and the mind that receives visions, as we did in the, the grounding that's connected to the blueprint of your life, it gets it. It's the conditioned mind. So yeah, I just want to presence that. And so I know, because I see, the same names. So some of you were here yesterday and some of you are here now. And so I'm curious, like, some of you just come to these calls because they're great and they're informative and you don't have any, you're not going to come to the practitioner training program. A lot of you are here to figure out if this is it. So for those of you who are like, I'm not sure, especially those of you who are here yesterday and those of you who are here today, like, I'd love to hear from you. What's alive? What's present? What's part of your decision-making process? How can we support you more? No questions, no concerns, no worries.
Joanna, I guess I'll say it's Joanna or Joanne. I'm sorry.
I actually go by Ameya more. So,
oh, okay. Okay,
yeah.
Ameya. I looked at this program last year, actually, and was really considering it. And I think I will have to wait until next year because I just have so much that I've signed up for this summer. But I'm wondering if you can just say, I'm really drawn to flower essences, but I have not worked with them a whole lot. And I'm wondering how you work with them specifically with clients and how so it's a consultation process that you're seeing people one-on-one, or do you use them in groups? You talked about, I'm a red tent facilitator also. So I'd love to just hear any suggestions for how this program could help me help others with flower essence.
Absolutely. So, the way that I teach it is coming through my own lens. And then every woman who comes through the program, some women, don't have a healing practice. They don't, the flower essences are going to kind of be their first thing. And for some women, they have something already set up like you, whether it's red tents or massage or birth doula work. And so there's a way in which each woman gets to kind of figure out how they go together. So the thing about flower essences, and, I think I presenced this yesterday's, I've been doing this for 16 years and I'm a Gemini. So I like to kind of like float around, and there's so much possibility with flower essences. Like you can do so much one-on-one, in group, that to me, that's really exciting. Like I don't ever get this like, oh, I've kind of reached the expression of flower essences and I get bored. And so one-on-one, it looks very much like, yes, like a counseling session where you're sitting across from somebody and you're really guiding them into deep inquiry of their past, which is affecting their present. And, in the practitioner program, we go through really how to coach, how to mentor, how to counsel, because there is an art to it. And the better you are at it, the better information you get from your clients, and then the better flower essence formula you can make. So that would be, like a counseling, coaching kind of one-on-one system. I have used it for pretty much, I use flower essences for everything. So every women's circle that I run, I bring a flower essence. And sometimes they're just to, kind of bring our energies together. But most of the time I bring a flower essence specifically for the theme that we're working on. You know, so if we're wanting to work on our relationship with our mother, or we're wanting to work on our self-worth, or we're wanting to express our inner lover, or we're wanting to, God, I mean, anything. It's everything gets enhanced with flower essences or tree essences or elemental essences. So anything that you're doing will become more exalted through the energy of an essence. When you're working with children, you can have them make sprays. You know, you can. It's like endless. It's all about your own creativity, because I mean, I bring a flower essence to anything and everything that I do. I never ever teach without flower essences. Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's like, yeah, the possibilities and the potentiality are pretty infinite. Any other questions? Okay, so send in your application, and yeah, and you're in for a real great journey. So let's do a meditation. We are going to do a meditation because, to me, when you're a flower essence practitioner, you automatically have a deep relationship to the earth, right? Because the medicine that you're using is of the earth. It's like when you make a flower essence, you can only make it with water, right? So the waters are so deeply honored and respected as a practitioner. Of course, the flower or the tree, all the elemental realms, the sun, the moon, if you're making a moon essence. So, and then of course you're communicating with the plant. So, you know, you're so infused with the energy of the earth. And as a priestess, and what I teach in so many of my priestess trainings is that, you know, all the elemental realms came together to create you. And so you literally are an expression of the earth. And as a flower essence practitioner, that just becomes more and more present and more real. And you see yourself clearly as a very significant being in the web of creation. So, and all of that is important for us as leaders, for us to really live and change what we're seeing in the world. So we're going to do a meditation for you to anchor into the earth so that she can speak to you and you can really live as a leader based in that. And, you know, we're talking about leadership right now through the lens of your work, but leadership is not just about your work. You know, leadership is how you show up in your families, how you show up in your communities, how you love, all of these things. So the more rooted and grounded in the earth you are, the more powerful you are. Okay, so getting yourself, you know, just moving your body a little bit because we just talked for a while. And then when you're ready, you can come into a place of pause, sacred, delicious pause. Following your breath, noticing what's alive in you because of and through this conversation. So notice if there is an activation of excitement or hope, an activation of your reclamation. And bringing your awareness into your womb space, this dark, cavernous, potent portal that we called forth at the beginning of our call, this chalice and this cauldron of the sacred feminine, this place where there is dark and there's a familiarity to the dark and the sweetness that resides in that place of mystery. And so bringing your awareness into that great, great portal. And noticing in your womb space a spark of light. And this spark is part of your code that was ignited at the moment of your creation. This time of coming together between your mother and father that created you. And seeing this spark of light as we bring our presence and awareness that it grows. And letting this light channel move through your root chakra and journeying down from your own body down through the floor of the room that you're in, through the earth, through the very topsoil where maybe there's a little bit more rocks, and continuing down to earth that gets more moist. Noticing the little creepy crawlers as the light channel moves down and you move down with it. Noticing the water rivulets. Noticing the crystalline beings and the rock beings that you pass as you continue to go down and down and down. Making your way to the core of the planet, the core, the womb of Gaia. As you head down with this light, feeling the warmth, feeling the fires of the center of the planet, noticing the molten lava as it burns and it dissolves and it melts stones and earth. Moving past all these flames deeper and deeper until you anchor in to the womb, to the core of Gaia. And as you arrive there, you kind of look around and you ask if you can speak to the spirit, to the essence of Gaia. And perhaps you see her appear in form, or you begin to feel her presence, and she begins to speak to you. My daughter, welcome. I've been waiting for you. I love you. And she may speak some other words to you, or you may feel this through her presence and energy. And there's a deep relief and belonging that you feel being in her presence, being at the core of this planet. It's like, ah. And that deep belonging brings forth an understanding of yourself and your place. She says to you that you're always connected, that this anchor can run deep into her, that every choice you make, every breath, every prayer, every decision, every touch is anchored in her. And so you ask her a question. And the question is one of two. So for those of you who are feeling drawn to the practitioner program, you can ask her, is this the next step on my path? For those of you who know that that's not happening right now, ask her, show me where or what I'm meant to be focusing and being present to right now as far as my sacred activism and right livelihood. And let her reveal and share and let her revel in truth to you. And of course, you can ask any other follow-up questions that feel really present if needed. And she offers you a gift, something to remind you of who you are as her daughter, something to remind you of the path that has been set out for you since before you actually even incarnated. And you receive it with deep, deep gratitude. And if it's something physical, you can bring it up into your own heart and let it melt and dissolve into your own self. If it's a prayer or a song or words, you can bring those words to your heart space as well, fully receiving and letting them become your truth. And she gazes at you with so much love. And you feel all of that infinite, generous, delicious love flowing into your body. She thanks you for being a steward, an emissary of her in the world. She thanks you for the courage of doing things that may not fit into the status quo. And she thanks you for hearing her call. For she has chosen you for something so great. So in return, you offer her a gift, pulling it out of the air. You offer her a word or a song or a prayer. She receives it with great adoration. And that pulsing light that led you down into the womb of Mother Earth begins to beckon you. Gaia is always here for you. She is always here for you. And you can anchor into this sacred spot every day to feel the blessing and the strength of who you are as a daughter of her. And you say your goodbyes. And she embraces you and whispers one last sweet, divine, holy whisper to you. And you step back into that channel of light, bringing all of Gaia with you, anchoring the earth into your return, and you move up through the deep fires and the molten lava, bringing that fiery passion back with you. And you move back up and up, passing by the rivulets of water, the crystalline beings, moving up and up through the moist soil, seeing the worms, the insects, the creepy crawlers who live under the earth, pulling them all into this channel of light, up through the surface of the earth, back up through the floor of the room that you're in, back up into and through your root chakra, and letting this light take up all the space in your body, from your toes, up your legs, your yoni and your womb space, your whole pelvic bowl, feeling the soils, feeling the waters, feeling the molten lava, feeling the flames, feeling all of Gaia rest in your bones, your tissues, letting the four-legged ones reside in your muscles, letting the winged creatures reside in your lungs and your mind, letting the waters of the earth fill up your being. All of you is being filled with Gaia so that you know your place, so that all of your choices are blessed in the earth. Feeling all parts, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, filled with the essence of Gaia. Noticing what that feels like to have the entire weaving of creation pulsing inside of you. Imagine all the blessings that will come from this place when you belong, when you animate Mother Earth, when you breathe her breath, as your heartbeat is her heartbeat, as her womb space is your womb space. Taking a few breaths, coming back into this time and this space and this moment. Feeling the realms of your physical body coming back online. Wiggling your hips and your pelvis. Shaking your head and moving your fingers and coming back into this place. And knowing all of this is you. And so you get to ask your questions all the time. What's my choice as an earth-based leader? What's my choice as an earth-based woman? What's my choice as an earth-based activist? What's my choice as an earth-based wisdom keeper and facilitator of healing? This becomes your anchor point. Taking a few deep breaths. When you're ready, you can just slowly flutter your eyes open. And if you want, you can take a moment to write down anything that you really want to remember, because sometimes in these spaces it's so deep and present, and then you forget. We're in always the process of remembering and forgetting. So that felt really beautiful to me for all of us to not only commune with Gaia, but to remember that this channel is available every day. Every day you can anchor yourself into the earth and feel her come alive through every part of your body, and you get to be a living expression of her. That's a magnificent gift. So we'll close with that, actually, for you to really stay in the vibration of that. For many of you, that's a big activation. For some of you, it's a little bit more subtle. Drink a lot of water. Put your feet on the earth if you need to. If you notice yourself a little spirally or headachy or a little wobbly, that just means that you've really opened to a gateway and a channel of your own self. And sometimes it just takes a little settling in. So I bow to each one of you and look forward to how you live your most sacred activism in the world, how you live into right livelihood, and how you become a great visionary and being that not only attracts sacred commerce, but allows yourself to receive it. So sending you all lots of love. Thanks for spending 90 minutes with me and with all of us, and really blessing all of you in this shared space, blessing all the women who will be listening to the recording. And I look forward to those of you who step onto the Flower Essence Practitioner track and path. So much love to all of you. Oh, thanks, Michaela. Sending lots of love to each one of you, holding you in a very, very, deep place in my heart. I give lots of thanks for your courage and your deep devotion. Yeah. Oh, lots of thank yous. Oh, good. Yeah. So, lots of love. Woo, lots of love. Thank you. Yeah. So much love, so much blessings to each of you. What are you holding up, Sylvia? Can see it. And just a reminder, lots of notes. Yeah, great. And just a reminder to, just be present to your inner and outer rings and how they support your true essence. This is a great practice for you to really discern what's a priority, what wants to be present, and how you then give back to the world. So, so much love to you. Have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are and whenever you're listening. So much love. Blessed be.